is that it's singled out one industry for lower tax relief and didn't treat the rest of the folks who are already here doing business. We're not giving any relief to the folks who've been here for years providing jobs. The first rule in sales is to keep your current customers. So the governor is giving a tax credit to Hollywood producers, but won't give a tax break to anyone who's employing people here in the state of Michigan. But the reality is the tax credit is there. And we've had businessmen and women invest in Michigan, and some who are even in the audience today, who put in millions of dollars. We can't send a herky-jerky message to the rest of the business world. Once again, at the top of a crazy business tax, we're going to be, give you credit one year, take it away the next. I think the appropriate way is to phase it down, and eventually, while we phase it down, give tax relief to every single businessman and woman right now, today. Thank you.
We need a consistent, fair tax system. What we've outlined, what's happened with the film tax credit is exactly the opposite. We have picked out winners, a very narrow slice, and the rest of the business community ends up paying. It needs to stop. The question is, we got to, you can't stop it. Immediately, you're going to have to face this up. People have made business decisions, and people are going to, other people who are looking at Michigan are going to see whether we are a consistent state or whether we just bounce from one idea to the other. And what we have been doing over the last number of years is bouncing from one idea to another. It's exactly the wrong way for an economic business model to be built. One day it's film credits, then it was windmills, now it's batteries. It's like, who are we? What we are is we do have the power to become a magnet state for all kinds of different opportunities, whether it's agriculture, mining, education, and manufacturing. We need to get back to a simple, fair tax system, which means programs like that have to go.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Well, in March of 1995, I was one of only 4 senators to vote against the creation of a program called Mackinac, which ultimately morphed into NBC. Not easy to vote against your own government, but I did it because I believe it's a failed policy to pick winners and losers in the marketplace. That's the marketplace's job. We need to create a tax system, a regulatory system where everyone can compete. The marketplace decides who's going to win, and we don't subsidize one at the expense of the other. So I was one of the leaders that voted against that now there's a report out that said they've only created 1/3 of the jobs they promised. Fails 2/3 of the time. Obviously, it's not working. So if you also look at sustainability, 3 out of 4 jobs created will be small business. They're never going to work. So we do so at our own peril by subsidizing really what is not the largest segment of growth in that small business. We're going to change that with a low broad-based system to make sure that those jobs grow in the state. And last but not least, we're going to do it in a way that's really, really comprehensive. To say we're going to cut $2 billion out of taxes, or 3 or 1, it's not quantified. What does that get us? We're going to go back to the beginning and say, what will make us the best place in America, tax and regulatory-wise, to compete and win? That's the system we're going to adopt, and that's the revenue we're going to live with. That's sustainable in the future.
Thank you. Senator Tom Jones, please.
Thank you, Kathy. Targeted tax cuts and incentives are a tool that a government can use to lure in migratory businesses that otherwise would not come here. Unfortunately, under the Graham administration, that tool has been misused. It needs to be resharpened, but not discarded. We need to keep it in the toolbox. In the Senate, we've already passed legislation creating transparency for mega credits and limiting the number. Of course, it hasn't passed the State House. I've sponsored and co-sponsored the measure to put the cap on the film tax credit provision. But throwing away the program is not the answer. There are businesses that will not come here. We are in competition with other states. We need the tool. It needs to be sharpened and gotten out and used carefully. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator. And now, Rick Snyder, please. I'm sorry, we finished that round, but all right, we're going into our final round. We're back to a minute and a half on time. We're making it up fun. Final round, and that's our starts with Steve Henderson, editor of Editors of the Free Press, and you go to Mike Cox with the first question.
A recent report says that while Michigan's investment in higher ed has declined by about 22% over recent years, other states like Alabama, Tennessee, and Louisiana have grown their investments by even larger numbers. I want you to address whether you think we need to boost our investment in higher ed in Michigan, and to address how you would do that, given that, as the Attorney General pointed out in the previous question, that there's really not much money.
Well, let me go in reverse order of question. Number one is you prioritize. Not every state dollar has equal value. But if we look at successful states, we see successful states have three things in common. They have a low tax rate for job creation. They have good infrastructure, that's sewers, roads, things like that. And number three is that they appropriately fund higher education. And we haven't been making that choice. In fact, we are spending this year $85 million less than we did in 2002 on public universities. How are our children going to meet the challenges of the global economy if we are decreasing the tools that they need? Now, don't get me wrong. I don't appreciate the college price inflation. But if we put in benchmark safeguards and transparency, we have to increase public university and community college funding if we're going to make a difference. In 1982, when I was in the Marine Corps, North Carolina had the big three: tobacco, textiles, and furniture. They all disappeared. They were a huge chunk of their economy. You go there now, they diversified because they lowered the tax rate and focused on public education and infrastructure. We need to follow that model. Same models working in Indiana, Georgia, Colorado. We can do it, but we have to focus and prioritize. That's how you do it, Steve.
Thank you. We're going to Congressman Pete Oakes with the next answer, please. Peter?
Obviously, higher ed is one of the competitive advantages that we have in the state of Michigan. Two of the top 75 universities in the world are located here. Then you take the second, you take the other higher ed universities that we have. They are tremendous drivers of economic opportunity, entrepreneurship. Grand Valley, you're going to see a whole spin-off of new economic development, green energy types of opportunities coming out of the Merit Center. You'll have an announcement in the next couple of weeks of an idea that was born and generated by somebody working at Grand Valley, designed in Michigan, engineered in Michigan, and in the next couple of weeks they will announce that the ribbon cutting for the manufacturing of 3,000 to 5,000 windmills per month will be in Windsor, Canada. Because when these folks called MEDC, no one was home. It took them 3 months to respond. They talked to the governor said, this is the kind of business we want in Michigan, and it went somewhere else. I refuse to accept the credit that in Michigan we're going to continue with limited resources. This state can come back because of all the fundamental building blocks that we have to build this economy back, to generate the revenue, to fund what we have, what we want, once we have economic growth and embrace that as a strategy.
All right, thank you, Peter. Next question goes to Michael.